Welcome back to the show where we run you through all the Dolphins news you need to know about. We do the show each and every single Monday, so if you like that, hopefully you'll stick around. This first news story is more of a public service announcement in case you guys don't know. The Miami Dolphins will be streaming all but one of their preseason games for free on their site. I believe you do not have to pay for any memberships, you don't have to do anything, it's all free, which is pretty cool. I don't think they've ever done this before. Actually, I think I know they haven't done this before. I do not know the one preseason game that they're not streaming. I completely forgot about it. But we do play this Thursday against the Atlanta Falcons. I'm pretty sure that one you can watch on Dolphins.com for free. So in case you didn't know that, now you know. This first news story is kind of weird, but cool at the same time. Dolphins have fired their offensive line coach, Pat Flattery. This comes from Pro Football Rumors. The Dolphins fired offensive line coach Pat Flattery earlier this week and replaced him with Dave Guglielmo. I'm calling him Dave from now on. I'm pretty sure I nailed his name, but it's an interesting name to say the least. But we're calling him Dave. We'll call him Guglielmo. So we hired Dave DeGuglielmo. He has wasted no time retooling the unit. We'll restart. We're gonna restart because I feel like you guys are gonna get confused. This first news story: the Dolphins are shuffling their offensive line. This comes from Pro Football Rumors. The Dolphins fired offensive line coach Pat Flattery earlier this week and replaced him with Dave DeGuglielmo. DeGuglielmo has wasted no time retooling the unit. The Dolphins, quote, Dolphins made wholesale changes in practice Tuesday to their offensive line, writes Barry Jackson, the Miami Herald. Dave's first day as the offensive line coach, rookie Michael Dieter and Will Holden took over the first team left and right guard spots, replacing Chris Reed and Jesse Davis, Jackson writes. Davis kicked over to right tackle, sending Jordan Mills to the second team. Dave received a lot of praise for his work as the Colts offensive line coach last year, and it was a surprise when he was ousted in January. He's clearly taking charge in Miami, and it sounds like the only two locked players in the Dolphins offensive line lineup right now is Laramie Tunsil and Daniel Kilgore at center. First of all, I don't know if you got this is underratedly great news that we listen. It sucks that we had to fire Pat, but the man really didn't get a chance. But obviously Brian Flores didn't like it. I think this was more of a he's such a good coach. Davis DeGuglielmo, however you say his last name. He's such a good coach. You know what he did with Indianapolis last year, turning that offensive line around. They did, they had two rookies on it. It wasn't just Quentin Nelson, so he did have to coach up, two rookies on an offensive line, and made them one of the best, definitely the best pass blocking unit last year, maybe to only the Steelers. And they were a solid run group as well. They were a really physical offensive line. And historically, the Colts offensive line, at least for the last 5 years, has been terrible. So, it was Quentin Nelson, but it was also the coaching of Dave. He did a great job. He's done a great job in New England over the years that he's coached there. He is a very, 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 very good coach. And he knows what he's doing. And he's turned bad offensive lines around before. And everywhere he's gone, they've been physical, stout units that play together. So this news makes me very happy. It's not every day that you fire a coach and replace him with someone who's a lot better, in my opinion, who has a better resume and a better track record. I really do believe that Brian Flores probably did this because of his availability. If you're not familiar with why Dave got fired in Indianapolis, it wasn't because of performance. First, I guess Frank, after the season was over, I guess he wanted to bring in his own guys because Josh McDaniels actually hired Dave because of his connections to New England to move over with Josh McDaniels when he became the head coach of Indianapolis. Josh ended up changing his mind at the last second and went back to New England, and Dave was stuck there, and Frank didn't hire him, so that is the reason he was let go. He did coach there for the entire season, but he was fired, I think, in January when the Colts season had ended, which was very odd. I know he didn't hire him, but at the same time, I guess he may have made promises to other people. I'm not really sure, but then Dave became a TV analyst, and that is why he didn't wasn't signed with us immediately. I think he had obligation somewhere else. For some reason, he was freed up, and now he is a Dolphin, which is great. And I love the lineup changes that he made when he first came in. The Will Holden one is weird, but I'm glad that he got Chris Reed out of there. Michael Dieter starting, which was pretty cool. I mean, this is the lineup that I wanted. I always wanted Jesse to be at tackle. So the fact that he made that change right away, I think, makes a lot of sense. He probably watched some tape on us over the last 2 years and probably saw that Jesse did well there in regular season games, which is good. And that, to me, is awesome, dude. I'm stoked that we hired him as a head coach, or not head coach, assistant coach, offensive line coach, because I really do feel like this is our best shot to get this offensive line right, is having him. I would say a top 5, top 3 offensive line coach in the league for his track record. So the fact that the Dolphins somehow lucked out on that is pretty good. It's pretty dope, and hopefully things continue to get better. This next news story comes from Pro Football Rumors, and it's the latest on the Dolphins quarterback competition. Less than a week ago, we learned. Hang on, sorry guys, I got my hair in my face. I can't see. All right, let's restart. This next news story comes from Pro Football Rumors, latest on Dolphins quarterback competition. Less than a week ago, we learned that Ryan Fitzpatrick was decisively winning the Dolphins starting quarterback competition. Now, though, the race has tightened considerably. And Adam Beasley of the Miami Herald says that Josh Rosen may find himself at the top of the depth chart when the team returns Monday. Beasley notes that Rosen has shown improvement over the past week, while Fitzpatrick has stumbled a bit. On Saturday, Fitzpatrick threw 2 interceptions and nearly threw a third. And after the second pick, head coach Brian Flores sent in Josh Rosen to work with the first-team offense, which has not happened often. Rosen responded by engineering a touchdown drive that included several excellent throws. Flores, who was the one who declared Fitzpatrick the frontrunner on Tuesday, walked back his comments, I bet, on Sunday. He said, quote, this is what Brian said about the competition, I know I said Fitzpatrick was leading the way the other day, but let's be clear, there's a lot of competition and a lot of time left. Today is a big day to showcase the improvement. There's a lot of time left to showcase the improvements that they can make. When asked specifically about Rosen, Flores said, quote, he's made some improvements really across the board. It's a thing a lot of people don't see. Better footwork, better mechanics in the pocket, and better decision making. The Dolphins would probably like to see Rosen take the reins, as he was a first-round draft choice last year and has a legitimate chance of becoming the team's quarterback of the future. Fitzpatrick, on the other hand, is in the twilight of his career and is almost certainly not going to be a part of the next competitive Miami team. They don't know that, but yeah. I mean, I've thought. I mean, I don't even want to say. I mean, this is what I thought was going to happen. I thought Josh would eventually win the job. I've always been a big fan of Josh Rosen's. You know, I've probably said this a million times when we've talked about him. So this is good news. I think he's got a lot of potential to be very good. And it's nice to see that he's getting better, and that it really, and we're gonna read them. If you've been reading their practice reports, the last 3 days, I want to say of Dolphins training camp, Josh has played better. So the fact that he's coming along strong is nice. The fact that when he was put in to play with the first team offense, and he hasn't, again, as the report stated, he hasn't done that a lot. The fact that he took advantage of that and scored a touchdown is great. I cannot wait to see him in preseason. That's what is going to make Thursday so awesome. This is the most exciting camp battle, I think, probably in Dolphins history. I can't really think of another one that's this interesting, and then has this much ramifications on the Dolphins' upcoming season. So it's going to be really interesting to see how it shakes out. But again, I thought Josh is going to win the job eventually, and I know I'm for some reason I'm in the minority when it comes to that. I don't really understand why, but you know, I'm glad that he's finally coming around. This next news story is a really interesting one. This comes from MiamiDolphins.com. Xavier Howard says rookie Preston Williams has impressed in Saturday's practice. While the venue was changed because of weather concerns, the Dolphins were still able to accomplish most of their goals in a scrimmage Saturday. There was no live tackling during the 2-hour session except for a single goal line period, but this still was a pretty dress rehearsal for the preseason game against the Atlanta Falcons at Hard Rock Stadium on Thursday. Coaches wore headsets and officials called penalties, too many of them, as it turned out in the scrimmage. This is what Ryan Fitzpatrick had to say about the scrimmage. He said, quote, "It was just kind of a nice measuring stick of where we're at, especially offensively, and it wasn't good enough. We had a nice drive, scored a touchdown, and after that, really didn't do anything all day. There's a lot of stuff we can continue to work at and get better at. But that's the ebbs and flows of training camp. We have to continue to get better now before the first game." The Dolphins scored 2 touchdowns in the scrimmage, the first of Fitzpatrick's swing pass to running back Kenyon Drake, and the second to wide receiver Isaiah Ford caught a pass from Josh Rosen after quarterback Xavier Howard failed to catch the high throw and instead deflecting right behind him into the arms of Isaiah Ford. A few plays before that, wide receiver Kenny Stills had another highlight play when he out-jumped Howard for a deep pass from Rosen and caught the ball after it bounced up. Howard still had a productive day Saturday as he came up with 2 interceptions. The first 2 were particularly impressive as he tipped a pass with tight coverage and caught the deflection. This is what Xavier had to say. He said, I think this is Xavier. Yeah, he said, "You can have 2 picks." This is a quote from Xavier. Xavier said, quote, "You can have 2 picks, but the stuff you give up is the stuff you think about more. The missed opportunity that I missed out on, I want to take advantage of that. I would have changed the game. It could have been a crucial moment. So I've got to take advantage of the opportunity when it comes to you." On offense, the player who stood out was wide receiver Preston Williams. The rookie from Colorado State had at least a half dozen catches, good for more than 100 yards. The highlight was a 55-yard catch on a perfectly thrown ball down the left sideline by Josh Rosen. Asked to describe the work of the offense, Rosen said, "Inconsistent. I thought," this is Josh Rosen saying this. He said, "Inconsistent. I thought there were some really good things and some bad things. A lot of penalties, pretty sloppy. I had two delay of games myself, which is definitely not okay, but everyone had a little bit of good and a little bit of bad. I think it's about being a little more consistent personally as well. I'd have a really great play and then a really not so great play. Consistency is key." Along with Howard, other players on the defense who shined were Charles Harris, who had pressures on back-to-back plays. Quarterbacks aren't touched, so there are no sacks. Rookie Jonathan Lebetter, who had a couple of plays at the line of scrimmage, and rookie Dwayne Hendricks, who had a would-be sack. The day of work ended with a short goal line period that featured live tackling. The Dolphins will be off Sunday before resuming practice on Monday. To add on to, which I thought the quote was going to be in there, when Xavier was interviewed after Saturday's scrimmage, they asked him about Preston Williams, and he said that he's going to be a number 1 receiver one day. You guys can look that quote up yourself. It was really, you could look up the interview yourself, but which is great news. And I think the biggest thing, well, there's 2 big things, really 3 big things that I take away from Saturday's scrimmage is number 1. Let's start with the positive, and then we'll end with the 2 negatives. Number 1, Preston Williams is legit going to be a great player. I really do believe that. When you watch him in college, he's literally unstoppable. The fact that he's doing this well in training camp is amazing, and I hope we reap the fruits of that this upcoming regular season, and I believe we will. It's going to be very exciting to see him in preseason. Dude, preseason week 1, this game is going to be must-watch TV. If you are a Dolphins fan, you have to watch this game because you are going to see a lot of the backups that are playing. You need to see, like Preston Williams, Josh Rosen. Like, you need to see these players play. Like, it's going to be in the defensive line, all the young players. Van Ginkel, is he going to be any good? Like, these are things that you guys need to see. And Preston Williams and Josh Rosen for me, Preston Williams and Josh Rosen for me headline that. So it's very important that you guys watch this. So the one positive that I've taken away from the Saturday scrimmage report is Preston Williams. The fact that he's been consistent all off season so far. He did it in spring. He's doing it in training camp, the first 2 weeks of training camp. Now we got to see him do it in preseason games, which I'm pretty sure we will. But he is really, 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 really got me excited for what he can do this upcoming season. The two negatives that I've taken from the Saturday scrimmage, number one, penalties. It sucks to hear that because this is not a coincidence, and I know it's the first time they've really lined up and played a game-like atmosphere and scenario, and this you can come to expect this early on because you're getting ready for the season. There's a reason you're not ready yet. There's a reason we're not playing a game right now. Is because everybody has to prepare and get acclimated to playing football again. So it is understandable that penalties will be committed and stuff like that, especially the first. In preseason, all you do ever see is penalties. Like, it's normal. But it is a little bit of a red flag as a Dolphins fan because we have struggled with penalties the last 2 years. That literally have cost us games. So to hear that is a little disconcerting a little bit. It's a little, definitely want to tread lightly on that a little bit because hopefully that's not going to be something that will stick with us through the regular season. So that's something that I noticed. And the second thing that I noticed was offensive inconsistency. That has been a huge issue for the Dolphins over the entire time Tannehill has been the quarterback. Really over the last 20 years, ever since Dan retired, we really haven't been a consistent offense. Maybe in the early 2000s, I guess you could make an argument that I would say those teams were those were great teams. But offensive consistency, I think the last time we ranked in the top 10 in offensive on offensive rankings, I think was maybe the late 90s, early 2000s, somewhere in there. It might have been even the mid 90s. I'm not really sure, but it's been a long time since we've been a consistent offensive unit, especially in the passing game. It's been forever since that's happened. The run game has come and gone over the years, but this is something that is a huge issue with this team, and the reason we're so inconsistent as a football team is offense is just been super inconsistent. So to hear, and this is not the first time. Excuse me, this is not the first time that we've heard this through camp so far. We've seen it from Ryan Fitzpatrick. He'll have a really good practice one day and then fall off the next. Now, the good thing is that Josh Rosen has actually had. He's put together like 3 good practices in a row. Hopefully that can continue. That can continue. I'm sorry, I'm really tired and jumbling my words a little bit. So hopefully that can continue. But to hear this inconsistent stuff, multiple times so far through training camp is a little. It's not great news, but the good news is we've had, I would say, especially through spring and training camp, our offenses have had days better than the offenses in years past. Because in years past, especially I would say the last 2 years especially, even 3, the offense has been done terrible in practice. So, terrible. And this is the first time in a long time that I've seen us, play really well at times, but it still kind of dips the next day. It's not a consistent thing. So hopefully the fact that Josh is starting to become more consistent, then the offense will come with him, which is at least what I'm hoping. So yeah, those are the 3 things that I really took away from that. And I know that it sucks that the scrimmage wasn't live because I think it was raining, and they had to play indoors. But yeah, those are the 3 things that I took away from that. And hopefully those things continue to get better, and they are. Like Josh Rosen, the fact that he's getting more consistent is great news, and hopefully we see that on Thursday. This is a weird one. I didn't even really hear about this until today, I think. This comes from the Fin Fanatic. Dolphins' Rashad Jones may not be ready for season start. The Miami Dolphins may not have Rashad Jones on the field from the start of the season due to a foot injury. Rashad Jones had a cast on his right foot and, as a result, may not be ready for the start of the season. So says Sun Sentinel beat writer Omar Kelly. His availability for the 4 upcoming preseason games is doubtful. Kelly doesn't go into details on what the injury is and does not say, it doesn't go into details of what the injury is and does say that it was without crutches and did not support a limp. You can read all of his comments on the subject on his Twitter. Miami has been using Bobby McCain exclusively at safety so far this training camp, and he has been doing well. He is paired with TJ McDonald, who spent the first day of camp on the physically unable to perform list. The injury to Jones, however, brings up other questions. Will he be on the 53-man roster? Will he be ready to go, or will he be placed on the injured reserve with a return designation? When I first read this, that he might not be ready to go week 1, I was like, dang, man, this could get... I don't think we'll ever see him again. Hopefully we do, but I could see that particular secondary playing really well. Because TJ, the fact that he's going back to his natural position at strong safety, he should play better. Bobby McCain, again, apparently has had a great camp at free safety, which is great. So that's more of a natural lineup for a defense. As you guys should know or do know, but over the last, 2-3 years now, we've been playing 2 strong safeties at the same time, which is not good. Despite what the Dolphins have thought over the last, at least in the past, it doesn't work. And we gave up a lot of blown coverages last year with those 2 back there. So I think that's going to be better. So this lineup is actually pretty good that we're going to be using out there. Rashad Jones obviously got off to a rocky start with Brian Flores and the whole deal. That's probably smoothed over since then. But I know Rashad has actually been taking a lot of second-team reps as well, which is interesting. So it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out. But I wouldn't be surprised if he wasn't a Dolphin by week 1 for some reason. I wouldn't be surprised at all. Which sucks. Obviously, he's a great player. He would be a better strong safety option, and we could move him around at linebacker. If the Dolphins do keep him, it does make the defense more versatile. He could play linebacker, which Minka has done some, so we could use him in that role as well. So he does make the defense better, in my opinion, if he stays around. But I'm just saying what this could mean for him. If he doesn't play week 1, I don't think... Obviously, you lose his instincts and his playmaking ability that he has in the defense because he is a ball hawk, and he's a great tackler in the open field, one of the best in the league. You do lose... he's not... TJ McDonald is not a better strong safety than Rashad Jones. Excuse me. So you do lose a little bit, but I do feel like the secondary is going to be just fine, even if he doesn't play. So this news is more interesting because of the whole Rashad Jones situation. Will he or will he not be on the team this upcoming season? And I think this kind of throws a monkey wrench into that because it really did feel like he would be. But the fact that he's not going to be with the team practicing, he didn't even make it through a full training camp, makes things really interesting with his future with the team. Let's see here. What do I want to take you guys next? Alright, let's do this. This is kind of repeated news, but I feel like it's important anyway. This comes from the Finsider. Josh Rosen continues to improve. Josh Rosen will not go quietly into the night, as the second-year quarterback has put together 2 good practices back-to-back. According to reports, Rosen has been the better quarterback the past 2 days, as Ryan Fitzpatrick has been struggling in practice. This comes after Brian Flores stated that Fitzpatrick was ahead of Rosen in the quarterback race, but Rosen has other ideas as he hooked up with Preston Williams several times during the team's scrimmage yesterday. So again, hopefully he keeps this up, man, and he builds this into the preseason games, because Brian Flores did come out and say in his press conferences that he puts a lot of stock into preseason games. He says those are very important. So if he comes out and plays better than Ryan Fitzpatrick, and it's also going to be interesting to see how much they play, because you have to give Ryan a shot to see what he's got compared to Rosen. You have to get a lot of tape on both of the players. So you might see both of them a lot, even in the first game of preseason. Unless Ryan Fitzpatrick does really well, his first like 2 or 3 drives, I could see him being pulled out early. But if he doesn't, I could see those two playing almost the entire game. So it's going to be interesting to see how they handle that in the preseason. Again, guys, this is must-watch TV if you're a Dolphins fan. And I think the Falcons one... And before we get into the fan Q&A, I'll look that up for you guys, because I do think the Falcons one is streamed. So again, you can watch this free on the Dolphins website. You might have to look this up by yourself, because this is going to take way too long, and we got a show to do. Yeah, you guys can look that up yourselves. But again, if you can, you should watch it. And I think the one that's not streamed is nationally televised. So I think that'll be on like NBC. If you guys want to watch it. So I think either way, you could potentially watch it for free, basically. Again, this preseason game is going to be very, very important. Before we get into the fan Q&A, I'll just give you guys stuff to watch. Obviously, number 1, the quarterbacks. Number 2, Preston Williams. You have to keep an eye on Preston Williams. He wears number 82, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe it's 83. I can't remember. So you have to watch those two. 3, and probably even more important, is the pass rushers. There's a ton of young pass rushers on this team. When you talk about Jonathan Woodard, Dwayne Hendricks, Van Ginkel, not Jerome Baker, but all of the linebackers that we've signed. The guy from the CFL that's had a really good training camp. His name is escaping me. The linebackers, and especially the outside linebackers, which in this scheme are going to be our pass rushers for the majority of the time, are going to be must-watch TV, ladies and gentlemen. Those are the questions that have to be answered. I cannot wait to watch this game and give you guys a full breakdown of what I think positive and negatives are, and things that could potentially be bad, and obviously the offensive line. But the most interesting thing is definitely the quarterback situation, and but there's also other stuff that needs to be watched, and I'm definitely looking for consistency on offense as well. And I'm not really interested in watching what the scheme is going to look like, because it's going to be super basic, just like everybody else's offense. You're not going to see stuff that we're going to run in the regular season. So it's just going to be really interesting, man. All right, guys, let's get into the Miami Dolphins fan Q&A. I don't think we have a clip of the week for you guys before we do that. I couldn't really think of any. Let me check really quick. Maybe I forgot. Let's see if we have a clip of the week. Nope. We might have one. Stick with me, guys. We might have a clip here. I might find it later in the show, as we answer questions, but I can't find it right now. Anyway, let's move on. I'm sorry, I just wasted, maybe 60 seconds right there. Let's get into the fan Q&A, ladies and gentlemen. This is where we answer fans' questions. We have 20 questions to answer today, which is it's pretty solid. So yeah, let's get right into it. You know what? I found the clip. We do have a clip of the week, ladies and gentlemen. This is Kevin Mawai's Hall of Fame induction speech, and he talks about why Zach Thomas deserves to be in the Hall of Fame.
And thank you for making me a better player. Zach Thomas was my nemesis. My first year with the Jets, before the first game, we each played against each other. Bill Parcells told me in front of my entire team, if you don't block Thomas, we won't win the game. And for the next 16 matchups, I never forgot that. Zach was one of, if not the smartest player I ever faced. He loved the game, had fun when he played, and he brought the best out of me. When people ask me who's not in the Hall of Fame, and that I think should be here, it's an easy one for me, number 54 from the Miami Dolphins. To my Tiger teammates here.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. That's coming from a Jet. Okay? That's coming from a Jet. So if this man doesn't get in the Hall of Fame, I don't know, in the next, let's say 10 years. First of all, I hate the way that people get into the Hall of Fame. Just as a side note, I feel like it does. Why is there an unlimited amount of people that can get in? Just pick the people that deserve to be in. It doesn't have. We can only pick 4. Why? Just pick anybody, for God's sakes. We float on a rock in the middle of space. What does it matter how many people get into the Hall of Fame? Who cares? Just pick. Okay, these are 10 great players. 15 great players, they're all getting in. They all deserve. I'm not making you wait for no reason. I think that, to me, that's ridiculous. And, obviously Zach Thomas deserves to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. One of the greatest linebackers of all time. He was Luke Kuechly before Luke Kuechly. It really was. Very similar play style to Luke Kuechly. And hopefully you guys heard that clip, because I think we got it going right there. All right, so let's get into the fan Q&A, ladies and gentlemen. This is where we answer fans' questions. This first question comes from TR3MC. He asks, can our coaching this year make up for the lack of playmakers on this team? Landry Wake James. Can our coach? I think we have a lot of playmakers on this team, especially on offense. They're just not big-name guys, dude. I've seen Jakeem Grant take an 80-yarder, to the house like it's nothing. You throw him a screen, you can go 55 yards for a touchdown. We've seen Albert Wilson have 155 yards on the best defense in the National Football League. All he did was make plays in that game. There are playmakers on that offense. Kenyon Drake, the miracle in Miami, playmaker, made many plays throughout his career so far as a Dolphin. Probably my favorite one was, my second favorite to the miracle in Miami. But my second favorite one to that one is the touchdown he had against the Buffalo Bills, his rookie year. That one was amazing, where he cut it all the way back across the field and went up the sideline and scored a touchdown. There are playmakers all over the field on offense. I just named 3 of them. I think Kalen Ballage is going to be one of those. I think Preston Williams is going to be one of those. I don't think necessarily... I think there's talent on this team. On defense, obviously you have X and Minka. Both, I think, are playmakers. If you want examples of that, when Minka had the pick 6 against the Vikings, both of them can make plays in the secondary. If Rashad stays around, obviously Rashad Jones is a playmaker. Christian Wilkins, we don't know. I guess we won't include him. He's a rookie. I think I already said X. So yeah, there are quite a few pretty good playmakers on this team that can change a game with one play. So I think there are playmakers on this team, if I had to answer your question. It doesn't really necessarily... obviously the coaches have to put them in the right place to make plays, but there are proven playmakers on this football team. This next question comes from Alonzo. He says, do you like what Flores and Greer have done thus far this season? What was their best and worst move of this offseason? Ooh, their best and worst move. Man, man, that's a tough one. Their best and worst move. I would say their best move. It's hard to say what their best move is because we haven't played yet. I would say this because you can't really say the best move, but I think my personal favorite move that they did was getting Josh Rosen, because I'm a big fan. I like Josh Rosen. I think he can be a pretty good quarterback. So yeah, I think that would probably... it's really... I can't say that that's a great move yet because he hasn't played, but yeah, I would say that. And then I say the worst move. I think they probably could have done... They could have been a little... Because it's hard... I love the way we manipulated the draft board, and at least for what we had, for what we were dealt, the cards that we were dealt with a very limited amount of draft picks, I do like the way we handled it. Because if I say, they should have traded up and maybe reach for maybe a pass rusher or a tackle, then we would have less draft picks for this upcoming season. I think we have like 12 or 14 draft picks this upcoming season. So it's a little bit of a double-edged sword. But I would probably, if there was a negative, I think maybe they could have been a little bit more aggressive in their draft of getting maybe an edge guy or maybe an offensive lineman. I would say more, if I had to say, maybe an edge guy. But I think if they did that, then that also comes with its own negatives. So really, I don't have one in terms of bad. I don't think they really made a bad move. If I had to be nitpicky, I think that would be the one. This next question comes from Edward Manning. He says, he asks, "Hey sir, thank you for the broadcast. My question to you: Ricky Williams, Mercury, he says Mars, but he means Mercury and Morris, I assume, do not have the pass they had. Which running back would you pick for today's team?" Okay, so in case you guys don't know, Mercury Morris, I think, had a cocaine addiction in the 70s. And obviously Rick Williams had his issues with marijuana. So if they didn't have the pass that they did, what player would I pick for today's team? I mean, both of them are great players. So, I mean, Ricky Williams is super talented. I would probably say Ricky Williams because he was really, I mean, he had over 10,000 yards rushing. He missed a lot of time. We worked him to death. We worked him almost to death, literally. He had a lot of issues with the marijuana thing. He had a lot of personal issues that he was dealing with as well, mentally. If he was able to get through those things and he was able to, use marijuana, I would probably say, I was going to say Mercury Morris because I feel like his play style really does fit today's game. He's a lighter back. He's more of an elusive back. He's got good hands. He would be probably a better fit now. But Ricky Williams is just such a talented player, and he's such a proven commodity that I would probably have to say Ricky Williams. I think people forget how talented he was, and I feel like if he was used in the right manner, given a good football team, then he would be an even better player. So, I would have to go with Ricky Williams. That's a tough one, man. Mercury Morris was a great player, and his career was obviously sort of cut short because of things off the field. But his talent, Mercury Morris's talent, I think the best argument that you would have for Mercury Morris is his versatility. I feel like he again, I think he fits today's game probably a little bit better. Because gone are the days of the guys that, you really want a versatile back. You don't want that 5 yards in a cloud of dust kind of a guy. Even though Ricky Williams does have the talent to catch the ball out of the backfield as well. This next question comes from SM. Let's see here. SM, he says, "Brother Skaggs, if you were Chris Greer, wouldn't you be on the phone with the Redskins offering a third-round pick for Trent Williams?" Absolutely. The Dolphins should absolutely trade for Trent Williams. First of all, I forgot to talk about that earlier in the show. Yeah, Trent Williams needs to be on the team, dude. If I was Chris Greer and I called the Redskins and they were like, "We'll give you," if I said I'll give you a third-round pick for Trent Williams and they said yes, that'd be like one of the happiest days ever, dude. Trent Williams is a Hall of Fame caliber offensive lineman. Like, he is a dominant player. In the running game and pass game. And I feel like he could play, well, first of all, I don't think he would definitely play like right or left tackle. Definitely probably right tackle. But he would make our team so much better if we traded for him. And he would he would be a great player for years. Obviously, he wants a contract extension, so we would have to, and it's fine. We have the cap room to do it. Unlike any other team in the league right now, the Patriots don't have that much cap room. And that's the whole hullabaloo that, that could be a potential trade partner. But the fact that the Redskins signed Donald Penn, maybe it's because of depth, because they have had offensive line depth issues, which is that makes a lot of sense. Or maybe they're trying to fill that hole that Trent Williams is going to leave. Obviously, he's not very happy with the organization right now. But yeah, man, that would be an amazing trade for the Dolphins to pull off. That would be one of the greatest, that would be one of the greatest 1-2s in my opinion in NFL history, with Laramie Tunsil and Trent Williams. That could go down as an all-time great duo, man. I don't understand, like, why wouldn't we do? I mean, maybe the personality of Trent Williams. I really don't understand why teams aren't more aggressive with stuff like that, especially if you're a Super Bowl contender. If you're a Super Bowl contender, first-round picks don't matter, dude. Do you know how hard it is to win a dang Super Bowl? That should be the most important thing, is just do whatever it takes. Like, first-round picks, in my opinion, at that point, are just, like, they don't matter. Especially if you're picking in the bottom of the first round. Like, you need to make those moves if you're in that, especially if you're in that situation. Dude, that move could make us a potential playoff team if we were to get Trent Williams. Like, I'm not even joking around. Trent Williams is a great player, and he would instantly make the team a lot better if Trent Williams was on the team. So yes, I would 1,000% do that in a heartbeat. I would if the Dolphins did that. That would be amazing, especially with the new the hire with Dave now as the coach, and that would be amazing. Thank you for reminding me of that, by the way, SN. That was a great one. Louise or Lewis Traps asks, "What's up, Skags? Have you seen Adam Gase's beard? Makes him look like makes him look a little less alien. He reminds me of the sugar water drinking alien from the first Men in Black. Funny how I anticipated a change at the O-line, but Flores went ahead and changed the coach. With Dave DeGuglielmo, hopefully I'm saying his name right, DeGuglielmo, our new offensive line coach, are you more optimistic? Thanks for the podcast, Skags." That question comes from Lewis. I really appreciate that, Lewis. We'll answer the Adam Gase beard question first. First of all, he looks like he's having a hard time. If, like, just looking at his face, I'm like, this man looks like he's going through a midlife crisis. He looks battered, to say the least. I mean, he has been through a lot over the last 3 years. Does he look like the Man in Black? No, I don't think he looks like that guy. That'll hit you with some nostalgia bringing that up, but it's a funny thing. But anyway, he says, funny how anticipated. Okay, so am I more optimistic now that the Dolphins have changed their offensive line coach? Yes, I think it was a huge improvement. To get one of the best positional coaches in the league, it's a no-brainer. He did a really good job last year. Unfortunately, he was fired for non-performance related things, which is stupid, but now that he's on the Dolphins, heck yeah, dude, let's roll, bro. And I love the changes he made, the lineup changes he made are those are the changes I wanted to see, with Jesse Davis at tackle, Jordan Mills with the second team, the guard changes, the Michael Dieter one, I wanted that to happen. The Holden one, I didn't see coming. This next question comes from Kyle Y. He says, is this defensive scheme going to finally be able to stop tight ends from streaking up the middle? Yeah, because there's a lot more speed on the field. And, the fact that Miggy's going to be playing a little bit of linebacker, the fact that Bobby McCain's at free safety, allows you to match up better with more athletic tight ends. So, yeah, it should be better. This next question comes from SM. SM asks, if Josh Rosen turns out to be awesome, is it okay to wear his Arizona Cardinals jersey to a home game? They are much cheaper. 1,000%, that's okay. 1,000%. First of all, not as okay, but I think that's pretty cool. Especially if he becomes a great player. This next question comes from Alonzo. Alonzo asks, will the O-line once again be our Achilles heel? Things are looking up for the offensive line. Now that Dave's here, I think things are trending in the right direction, I think. This next question comes from Alpha. Alpha asks, name all the receivers that will be on our roster week 1. Okay. Kenny Stills, Albert Wilson, Jakeem Grant, that's 3. Who am I forgetting? Oh, Devontae Parker, that's 4. Preston Williams, that's 5. Maybe you throw in Bryce Butler. Yeah. I would say those are the guys you probably would see. This next question comes from Ride Sharing 101. He says, how do you rank the teams in our division as far as how they finished the season? I really don't like predicting things like that, but when I look at the teams, they all have their weaknesses and strengths. I feel like the Bills have probably the best defense in the division right now. I don't know, man. I think they probably have the most proven defense in the division. I feel like our defense is pretty good for this scheme, and it has potential to be a lot better than people think. It's just the edges that are a problem. And I'm not even talking about pass rush. I'm just talking about setting the edge in general. So that's a big question mark. But they all have their strengths and weaknesses. I still feel like that Bills offense is nothing to write home about. The Jets team as a whole is interesting because their offense I don't like. I feel like their offensive line, it's better than it was a year ago with Clutch Osemele and you know, they just signed Ryan Cleo coming out of retirement. But their offense as a whole, they really don't have a dominant receiving threat. They have Quincy Enunwa. Chris Herndon had a decent rookie year. Robbie Anderson's a deep threat, and he's very one-dimensional. Japes Crowder is a good slot. He can't stay healthy, though. So I really feel like other than New England, all the other teams I feel like have their own weaknesses and strengths. And I feel like the fact that people think that the Jets and Bills are so much farther ahead because they have a name like Le'Veon Bell, and the Bills have, I guess, Josh Allen. Other than that, I really don't know. I guess people really think Cole Beasley's Julio Jones or something like that. But, those two, I think the three other than New England, it's a lot closer than a lot of people think, in my opinion. I really don't see why everybody thinks those two teams are that good. I guess a big name player means, I don't know. A lot of people, I don't know. I just don't feel that way. So hopefully that answers your question. This next question comes from SM. SM asks, Isaiah Prince has the perfect look to be a starting offensive tackle. I never hear much of him. If he can start at right tackle, what would really help the line? Tunsil and Prince at OT, Dieter and Davis at guard is a pretty strong line. Everything that we've heard from Prince, he's just not ready yet. I think the best offensive line would be, and it's really what Dave's been running in practice so far, other than the Holden one. I would say Jesse Davis at right tackle, Laramie Tunsil at left tackle, Michael Dieter at left guard, Daniel Kilgore at center, and Jordan Mills at the other guard spot. Would be my offensive line I definitely would test out, because I think that has potential to be pretty decent. This next question comes from Alpha. Alpha asks, where do you think Minka should play on defense? And if we're only playing 4 DBs, should he be over Eric Rowe? What do you mean by 4? So you're saying 2 safeties, 2 corners? Well, I feel like depending on what package Minka's in is what position he will play. I think Minka should play free safety. I've said that since we've drafted him. But coaches like his versatility. So really, let's say we're playing a 3-4 base defense. He can play linebacker in that defense. If we're playing dime, he can play linebacker. If we play nickel, he can play linebacker. He doesn't have to play DB in a lot of different formations. He can play other positions. So depending on what package is out there, it is what position Minka will play. If we're running nickel dime, he could be the nickel dime line corner. Depending on what package is out there, I feel like is what position you will see him play. Stefan, here we go. He's saying Stefan. Is that really your name, Stefan? I've never seen anyone. I don't know if that's actually your name. He says he asks, with Coach Flores pressing Rosen, do you believe Josh will start for us this year at some point, even if Ryan Fitzpatrick is healthy, basically surpasses him? Yeah, I've said this since the beginning. I feel like he will start at some point. I think he'll start week 1. This next question comes from Alpha. He says, how do you... excuse me, I'm all over the place today. This next question comes from Alpha. He says, who do you think will not make the 53-man roster that will be a surprise to us all? I would say Rashad Jones. I could see him not making it. I really could. This next question comes from Tree. Well, I guess I should explain that a little bit. I feel like just because of his absence from the team for this... I mean, you got to think. He wasn't here for spring. He really wasn't here for off-season. So he really hasn't been with the team all that often, and the team has been running that same lineup for a long time now. And if it's a good lineup to run, and we're pretty deep at safety, I can see Rashad being expendable at that point. And it sucks to say that, but yeah. And he's not expendable. He's a great player. I don't mean it in that way. I'm just saying, it's like if you're a GM, it's like why is his contract on the books? Is basically what I'm saying. All right, this next question comes from, let's see here, Alpha. He says, okay, Skags, the odds were 90-1 for the Dolphins to win the division, so I bet 500 to win $45,000. Tell me the scenario where this could actually happen, LOL. Okay, the scenario where the Dolphins win the division. The offensive line is good. The defensive line finds its edge setter. If those two things happen, the team's going to be a good team. Josh Allen doesn't progress. He's still a bad pocket passer. Sam Darnold struggles with the lack of playmaking in the passing game. The defense isn't enough to win them consistently, to win games for them consistently. Tom Brady is aging, and the loss of Gronk hit harder than people thought. So there you go. This next question comes from SM. SM asks, Andrew Van Ginkel had 21 sacks in 37 games in college. Could we have the answer to our lack of pass rush? Yeah. I mean, I know he's been pretty decent throughout camp so far. So I'm excited to see him in preseason. So yeah, he's an athletic guy, man. He's very athletic. He's very versatile. He just doesn't have that physicality to him when you watch him play in college, and then you got to think, well, in the NFL, it's just gonna be even worse. This next question comes from Tech Me Out. He asks, we've not really heard much about any significant progress that we'd hoped for in regards to Charles Harris. How realistic do you think it is that Harris actually doesn't make the team? I don't think it's realistic. I think he's a good pass rusher, and he's a good rotational player at the very least. We're expecting him to be a good starter, and that's something that we're holding and really hoping will happen. This final question comes from Alonzo. He says, finally, will the Dolphins win at least 3 games this year? I see us splitting with the Bills and Jets, then beating the Bengals for our final win. Man, you really are down on us. Yeah, I could see the Dolphins winning way more than 3 games, that's for sure. We have a lot of smart coaches on the staff. We got some playmakers. I feel like the personnel fits the scheme we're running on defense. Heavy on secondary, not so much on edge. Someone brought up a great. I mean, if you look at the Patriots I've said this before. If you look at the Patriots defense over the last few years, who is their best edge player? Kyle Van Noy. Over the last 2 years, it's by far Kyle Van Noy. It's either Kyle Van Noy or Dante Hightower. I would say Dante Hightower, but he moves around a lot. He plays middle, he plays edge, he does a lot of things. He plays, I would say, let's say 75 edge, so he does mostly play edge. So we'll say Dante Hightower, right? But it's between those two. Both of those guys, when you think of those guys, you don't think of a dominant pass rusher, okay? They don't have one. When you think of what Detroit is trying to do, but least successfully, they added Trey Flowers, but he's more of a versatile player. He's more of a set-the-edge guy. He's not a dominant pass rusher. You don't need that to run the scheme. You just have to have a really good... I'm almost exploded in my brain. You just have to have a really good secondary. And that's something New England has invested in. They don't invest in edge guys. They invest in secondary guys. The most expensive contract, I think, on their books right now is Stephon Gilmore's. So that's what is most important in that scheme, and I feel like we check those boxes with our secondary. It's versatile. It's got a lot of talent on it. Oh, we're gonna win more than 3 games. So I feel like the defense is gonna be better than a lot of people think. The offense is where it's just a huge question mark. It's really, for me, it's just the offensive line, and we're about to find out, because a good offensive line leads to offensive consistency. A bad offensive line is where you get some of those inconsistencies, or at least more, and you get more penalties, and you get all so on and so forth. So you get bad third down numbers. That's what a bad offensive line is pretty much a death of a season. So yeah. So that's going to be it, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed. Please spread the word about this show if you enjoy it. Continue growing the show. It obviously is something that I think I look forward to, and I hope that all of you guys look forward to, of the show continuing to grow and continuing to get more views. So yeah. That is going to be it, guys, for this week's episode. We went through everything you need to know about week 2 of training camp. I hope you guys enjoyed that. And I'm Skaggs83, and I will see you guys in the next one.